and the mule is serving as the go-between to deliver the fraudulent ballot. Very often what's so cool about this movie is you don't just have the geo-tracking. By itself, that would be interesting enough because it's sort of like a digital fingerprint. But we also have video, and when you put the two together, the effect is, well, really quite explosive.
Joining us now is the producer and narrator of the documentary 2000 Mules, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Great to be with you.
I want to talk about the centerpiece of this documentary and what your findings are based about more than any other thing. And I guess that would be geospatial, geolocation technology. Explain to our viewers what this is. I know that police departments and law enforcement frequently uses it, but it has commercial applications. And I guess it's apparently available commercially as well.
Yes, this so-called geolocation data or geo-tracking is tracking the movements of a cell phone. So our cell phones have embedded within them innumerable apps. And these apps allow people to be able to pinpoint your exact location at a given moment in time. Now, when you buy the data, you can not only tell the location of a phone, but the movement of a phone. So if you were to geo-track me, you'd see that I woke up this morning at home, I was stopped at a coffee shop, came to the studio, went back and met some friends for lunch. All of that would be shown by this geo-tracking data. And so working in conjunction with an election intelligence group, it's called True the Vote, they acquired a giant trove of geo-tracking data from October 1 of 2020 to Election Day in all the key states where the election was decided. Atlanta, in Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, Milwaukee, Detroit, and the greater Philadelphia area. And so what they were able to do is use that geo-tracking to search for something very important, namely illegal ballot trafficking of a magnitude large enough to swing the election.
I see. Now, here's the key question. How precise is this geolocation data? I mean, is it as precise as, say, the size of a football field, 10 yards of a football field, 5 yards, a foot? You tell me.
So geo-tracking has been, like GPS, it's a developing technology. So if you looked at GPS 20 years ago, it couldn't locate your car except within a fairly large radius. But GPS has gotten a lot better. Well, geo-tracking, it used to be that it was accurate to about 20 or 30 feet, but now it's accurate to between 12 and 18 inches. So if geo-tracking puts you at, let's say, a mail-in drop box, your cell phone is at that location. Now, you could have given your wife the cell phone and she could be at the drop box, but that your cell phone is stationary at that location is not open to doubt.
Right. Now, also, any number of passers-by could walk past a drop box, and therefore their cell phones would be included in this data. However, according to my understanding of this, you narrowed this down further by also locating, for instance, various governmental entities that they may have come from or election offices that they may have come from. So you put those two pieces of the puzzle together and perhaps more. Were there more pieces of the puzzle?
Well, the important thing is to realize that with geo-tracking, you can tell the difference between walking past something or driving past it and stopping at the location. And the reason is that geo-tracking is giving you these coordinates in time. So what True the Vote did, which was very ingenious, is they said, look, we're trying to find these mules. Now, who's a mule? A mule is a paid operative hired typically by some organization to drop fraudulent ballots into mail-in drop boxes. But True the Vote said, we're going to look at people, at cell phones, that are stopping at 10 or more drop boxes. In other words, there could be an innocent reason why you stopped at 2. Maybe you put your ballot in one drop box and you had to tie your shoelace at the other one. But there is no innocent or rational reason to stop at 10 or more drop boxes, especially if you're doing it in the middle of the night.
Or especially if you've just come from an NGO or an election office.
Well, this is the key point, is that the mules don't come up with their own ballots. They go to what in the movie, we call them vote stash houses. These are left-wing activist organizations embedded in these inner cities, embedded in places like Philadelphia and Atlanta and Detroit. And these are the places that deploy the mules. So they come up with the fraudulent ballots. They hire the mules. The mule is nothing more than a trafficker. The term, in fact, comes out of, drug trafficking or sex trafficking, and it's now being applied to ballot trafficking, and the mule is serving as the go-between to deliver the fraudulent ballot. Very often what's so cool about this movie is you don't just have the geo-tracking. By itself, that would be interesting enough, because it's sort of like a digital fingerprint. But we also have video, and when you put the two together, the effect is, well, really quite explosive.
Well, now, is this anecdotal video? Do you have a few shots, or do you have something larger that indicates the widespread scale of what you believe?
Oh, yeah. So let's be a little bit clear here. There were 10 trillion pings of cell phone data, a giant trove of data. In fact, True the Vote has the largest database of election intelligence on the 2020 election in the world.
And let me just interrupt you there.
Surveillance
Dinesh,
video,
I'm sorry. You hit upon a point that's really important to me. How did you acquire that information? I said at the onset here that it's commercially available. Is it commercially available to anybody? You just pay a fee for it? How does that work?
Yes, it is. Now, it's not available in the sense that you can go buy it in Walmart, but it's available in the sense that there are some 40 to 45 aggregators, so-called, and they sell this data particularly to commercial companies. If you go on vacation and you disembark an airplane in Naples, Florida, you get a notification on your phone. Weather is lovely in Naples, 75 degrees. Well, how do they know you're in Naples? Somebody is geo-tracking you. So this is a massive business, and it's legal in the United States to buy and sell this data, because unfortunately when you get these apps and you click on them, you are in effect giving up your right to privacy.
Right. Okay, so talk me through. I interrupted you. I want you to finish that thought that you were on when I interrupted you.
Well, I was saying that in addition to the geospatial data, which is decisive in itself because geo-tracking is so accurate, and remember, as I said, that by looking for mules who went to 10 or more drop boxes, True the Vote was searching only for the most egregious mules. This is kind of the tip of the mule iceberg. This is not getting all the mules. If a mule went to 7 drop boxes, they don't count them. They only count sort of the most industrious mules. Now, it turns out that some of the states, Georgia, yes, Arizona to some degree, Michigan to some degree, have official surveillance video. Now, I'm not talking about some dude in his truck, turning on his iPhone. I'm talking about True the Vote through public information requests obtaining 4 million minutes of video. And we have a huge amount of video in the film. So it's not a matter of you can see one mule. You see mule upon mule upon mule upon mule, and they're going to drop box after drop box. What's interesting is they're often doing this in the middle of the night, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. They look around to make sure no one's around. You can see them wearing gloves. Why? So as not to leave fingerprints. They start dumping these ballots into the drop box. Very interestingly, as they're doing it, they're taking photos of the ballots going in. Now think about that. What rational reason is there to do that? They're not taking a selfie, kind of like I voted. No, what they want to do is they want to show the people who sent them, I was there, I did the job, I dumped the ballots, this is how I get paid. So the whole operation, beautifully, is on video, and I think that really settles the argument. From a movie point of view, watching this, it's almost like you see the criminals breaking into Fort Knox.
Do you have evidence they were paid?
Yes, we had the evidence of whistleblowers both in Georgia and in Arizona who came forward to True the Vote. In fact, this is how they developed this idea for doing the geo-tracking. The Georgia whistleblower said, listen, I basically have been doing this for money. I get $10 a ballot. I got more in the recount election that followed the 2020 election. And when the True the Vote researcher said, well, are you the only guy? He's like, are you kidding? This is a whole operation. Tons of people are doing this. We've been doing this for a long time. So this gave True the Vote the idea, okay, let's now buy this cell phone data and see if we can document this operation at the larger scale.
Do you have evidence of who the payer was?
Yes, we have the names. The True the Vote has the names of all the organizations that were the vote stashing houses. So let's be clear. True the Vote has A, the names of these organizations, and B, the cell phone IDs of all the mules. Each of our cell phones has a unique and distinctive ID, which creates a kind of digital fingerprint. Now, True the Vote doesn't have the names of the mules, but it's very easy for law enforcement to find out who they are. In fact, they do this every day. They have a cell phone ID, they get a warrant, they go to the provider and they say, who's this guy? And the person is identified, and then they become, for example, a suspect in this or that. So this is a very normal practice that's done by law enforcement every single day. It's also done by intelligence agencies. This exact same geo-tracking was used to arrest January 6th protesters, to track down bin Laden. So it is widely accepted, and it's widely used, and it's completely reliable.
We've all seen the mainstream media narrative that there was no widespread election fraud in the 2020 election. The most secure election in American history. In fact, you ran a montage of sound bites like that from mainstream media at the start of the trailer. You allege otherwise. Do you think that what you saw, that you have evidence of, was enough to overturn the 2020 election and give it to President Donald Trump?
Well, the answer to that question is yes, but I hesitate a little bit because it is important to see the process by which we arrive at that result. We don't do it in any kind of simplified way by saying, okay, 2,000 mules, an average number of 40 Dropbox visits, so that's 80,000 Dropbox visits, 5 illegal votes approximately per Dropbox, that's 400,000 illegal votes. But that's not sufficient because that's just a gross kind of aggregate number. What we do is we break it down. Let's look at the effect of the fraud in Georgia. Let's look at it in Arizona. Let's look at it in Philadelphia. So what we really do is we subtract the fraudulent votes, and we do a kind of a redo, a recalculation of the electoral count. It's one of the most gripping parts of the movie, and it literally has people at the edge of the seat.
Well, you hit upon a really important point here, because you're saying 5 votes per mule per drop, correct? Is that the number you said? How do you know that? You can't. I've seen some of the video of the mules dropping in the slot of the mail, the drop-in box, ballot box, but you can't tell how many envelopes are in his hand.
Well, you actually can, but it requires a little bit more of a careful scrutiny than we can show in a movie. In other words, it is possible to tell both from the video. You can look and you're able to see how many average votes are dropped. See, here's the point. None of the mules drop 100 or 200 or 500 ballots into one Dropbox. Why? Because the next morning when they open the Dropbox and fill out the custody documents, they will see a huge spike in votes. So the mules have been trained 3, 5, 7, 10 votes. And so you begin to, when you have 4 million minutes of video, you can easily see patterns. And from the patterns, you can get very good estimates of what is the average number of votes per drop.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.